The Jewish Channel's Week in Review. New elections in Israel, a one-man show of financial trouble, awarding Russian-American Jews, and more of the Jewish news that's changing your world right now in this episode of the Week in Review. Hello, and welcome to the Jewish Channel's Week in Review. I'm Stephen I. Weiss. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu fired two top ministers this week in what appears to be a further push toward early elections. He'd earned the second most votes in the 2013 election, but Yair Lapid of the Yesh Atid party is now out of Netanyahu's government, as is the woman who came in second in the election prior to that, Tzipi Livni. Netanyahu is making his move at a time when polls suggest he could return to the kind of government he had before the 2013 elections, a mix of right-wing parties and ultra-Orthodox parties. Low ultra-Orthodox turnout in 2013 had helped seat a government in which Netanyahu was seated with a number of rivals. Two polls published on Tuesday suggest that if an election were held today, Netanyahu would be able to create a coalition of his Likud party and the parties led by Naftali Bennett and Avigdor Lieberman, plus the two main ultra-Orthodox parties, Shas and UTJ. The only possible path to victory by center-left parties would include adding Arab parties to the governing coalition, which is a very unlikely occurrence. Elections today would give Netanyahu a very different government than the one he was given in the 2013 election, essentially replacing multiple parties seen as centrist politically and religiously, with parties that are right-wing religiously and flexible on many political issues that don't intersect with religious obligations. Netanyahu delivered a lengthy statement declaring in part, "Unlike its predecessor, the current government, from the day of its inception, was a contrarian government. It was forced on me. This government had friction and directional differences. It behaved under threats and ultimatums." Lapid shot back at Netanyahu, declaring, quote, "Netanyahu prefers a deal he made with the ultra-Orthodox on moving up the elections over the interests of all Israeli citizens." At issue in the election will be the degree to which the ultra-Orthodox parties are required to enlist in the Israeli military and continue to receive government payments to study in yeshiva, among other domestic concerns. Israeli-Palestinian peace appears not to be a major differentiating factor given current party positions on the issues and in the polls. But moving on from national budgets to the ones about the kinds we all have to deal with, a new one-man show declares its star is, quote, "bad with money." Meredith Gansman spoke with him to get the details.
Performing his solo show, Ben Rimmelauer is good. But with his money, Rimmelauer is bad. So bad that he's made his lifelong struggle to manage his finances and the strange behaviors to which that struggle has led the very subject of his show, Ben Rimmelauer is bad with money. And his story doesn't end at the curtain call.
And I also talk in the show about getting sober from drugs and alcohol, how making that change in my life, I at least found a sort of moral center about it, even though I still really struggle to manage my own spending and debting and all that, that I don't let other people be the victims of my problem anymore.
Today, he's part of Debtors Anonymous, but it's still a challenge for him to stay out of debt.
The point is not to be debt-free. I could be debt-free and then I could get in debt all over again. The point is to live, they call it a solvent life. That's like the equivalent of the word sober, is to, not use money and spending as some kind of like drug, and to be satisfied by the more important things in life and spirituality and being connected to myself on a deeper level and people that I care about, and tikkun olam, as we would say in Judaism.
One way he is connecting is through his show.
Me sort of coming out in a way with this show and just being really open about this problem that I have is sort of taking away some of that mask and that facade, and that's very healthy for me. And feels very healing to have that experience, like a catharsis, with the audience.
But today he's taking a break from the stage and meeting me at J. Levine Judaica for some practice with handling money. So Ben, the holidays are a time of shopping, and I'm putting you to the test. I have given you 180, a perfect high number, right, of Hanukkah bucks. You have to go buy Hanukkah presents, right? How are you feeling?
What a rush.
What a rush. You have to buy as many Hanukkah presents as you can. 8 being the optimal number, I suppose. I mean, if you can do 9, go for it. But the money is yours, the challenge is yours, and the store is yours. Go.
Wow. I want to start with the books. A person that I'm definitely going to buy some Hanukkah gelt for is my best friend's little 2.5-year-old Max, who's just really my true best friend. And he is obsessed with Elmo. So I already see Elmo little dreidel. See, this is what's really hard for me to resist, is like these oh, you get all these dreidels in one fell swoop. But it's $50. They must be kosher dreidels. Oh, this is cool. Sephardic culture. Oh, I love this. Now, my dad, who's actually Ashkenaz, but his parents are from Germany, and he was born in Argentina. And I think he would love this Jewish book in Spanish. I should figure out what it's about. Un cuento para cada día. One light for every day. It's the Hanukkah book in Spanish. I'm definitely getting that from my dad. Well, so far I'm getting books. Who knew?
To see more from Ben Rimmelauer, tune in to Row J and the full broadcast version of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Meredith. The Russian-American Person of the Year Awards included a number of Jewish nominees, and Christian Needon stopped by.
Manhattan's National Arts Club was a glitzy venue for recognizing the civic work done by America's Russian speakers, as the Russian-American Person of the Year Awards were given out to those working in the fields of education, leadership, philanthropy, innovation, visual arts, media, performance, and a lifetime of achievement. Among those nominated were several Jews with roots in Russia or the former Soviet Union, including retired champion boxer Yuri Foreman, who recently became a rabbi and was nominated for the Knight's Emerging Leader Award.
Russian Jewish American community has helped me a lot in my path on becoming a world champion and in my life, and they also made a very significant impact in American economy or culture. So just being part of it, very honored.
He added that his boxing career will inform his rabbinical one.
I've been studying for over 6 years, and studies and learning is not done, just the beginning. But being a rabbi is just another title belt.
Rabbi Aryeh Katzen was nominated for the Educator Award and congratulated Foreman on his milestone, noting the importance of his example for American Jews, Russian or otherwise.
He's an example for me because he's a rabbi and a fighter. And in today's world, we are the Maccabees, speaking about upcoming holiday of Hanukkah. We need to be fighters, not in a physical sense necessarily, but because we have an uphill battle of tremendous amount of ignorance, tremendous amount of assimilation in the spiritual sense. And you really have to persevere to win, to be victorious.
To see more from the Russian Person of the Year Award, please tune into the full broadcast edition of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Christian. Finally, this week on Up Close, we're talking about intermarriage, one famous union that shocked high New York society, and a look at what marrying outside the faith means in America overall. He's a legendary district attorney and heir to a famous and wealthy Jewish dynasty. She was a hippie who'd become the youngest ever woman to win the Pulitzer Prize. And amid those differences was also a 27-year difference in age. Lucinda Franks talks about how she and Bob Morgenthau made a life together in timeless Love, Morgenthau and Me. But not every marriage lasts as long as that one, and intermarriage broadly is actually far more likely to end in divorce. But what else happens in interfaith marriage? Creating a picture of interfaith marriage through commissioning national surveys and conducting in-depth interviews is Naomi Schaefer Riley, author of Till Faith Do Us Part, How Interfaith Marriage is Transforming America. Here are some of the highlights from my interview with Lucinda Franks. So you were the youngest woman to win the Pulitzer Prize for journalism, and you were looking at a great career ahead of you, and as this young firebrand leftist. And then you run into this 50-something district attorney. And how does that become a relationship?
My first meeting with Bob Morgenthau was I interviewed him for the Watergate scandal that I'd been assigned to cover by UPI, United Press International, where I worked at the time. I was in my early 20s. And I asked him a lot of detailed questions. But I asked some of the same questions over because I was fascinated by his forehead. He had the most magnificent forehead, and he just was the most unusual person.
Had you chosen men by their foreheads to that point?
Certainly not, but
Yeah.
I had chosen against Hollywood model, you know, good looks. I liked quirky good looks. He actually, because I asked the same questions over again, he said to himself, this is either the dumbest or the smartest reporter I've ever met. And after I wrote my story, he decided I was the smartest.
Throughout your relationship, for your husband, he showed he didn't necessarily wear like a very obviously Jewish identity on his sleeve, but he had his particular Jewish thing. One of them was Israel, one of them was the Holocaust, and one of the things he did was, one of his episodes though was when he was offered or asked, I guess, to kind of make a Holocaust memorial in New York happen.
Yeah, against great opposition. In fact, there were 4 other people that were commissioned also. And, you know, they kind of dropped like flies because there was a great part of the Jewish population in New York that did not want a New York Holocaust Museum. And Bob, one weekend said, darn it, I am going to get that money and we're going to build that museum. The whole weekend he was on the phone. He called everybody from Steven Spielberg to Steve Ross of Warner Brothers, and the secretaries would say, the district attorney Robert Morgenthau is on the line, and these big guys would, you know, drop everything and say, hello, Mr. Morgenthau. And they were so glad that they weren't being investigated and they were only being asked for money. They gave these huge sums. So at the end of the weekend, he had millions of dollars.
You can see the full episode of Up Close on the Jewish Channel on cable. You can also listen to the full audio of Up Close as a podcast available on iTunes and your favorite podcast player. That's all for this week. From all of us here at the Jewish Channel, be well. The Jewish Channel is available on cable. Time Warner Cable Channel 1640, IOFLM Channel 505, RCN Channel 268, Cox Cable Channel 1, Bright House Channel 330, Verizon Fios Channel 900, and on Comcast on the on-demand menu on premium channels. For more information, visit tjctv.com.